Alright, hey, shalom, akim, shalom. First and foremost, as always, before we get started, giving all praise, honor, and glory unto our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, the elders of Great Millstone that have taught us His truth and that rule well. And peace and blessings go out to the hopeful members of the elect, scattered throughout the four winds of the earth, that are in the hopes of receiving salvation and mercy during the time of Jacob's trouble, which is fastly approaching, and that are worshiping the Heavenly Father in sincerity, in spirit, and in truth. Alright? Now in this lesson I want to talk about the domino effect of what the Strait of Hormuz, now being controlled by Iran, is creating within the American economy. That's also beginning within the EU nations and Asian countries, causing friction within their little process of how they make commerce, all right, which is ultimately going to have a domino effect that leads to the U.S. having, things happen like inflation, shrinkflation, all right, the cost of living going up, and ultimately fulfilling the prophecy of evils growing upon the earth, man. All right. Right now we're in a time where victuals in America are so good cheap. As a matter of fact, we'll get that real quick in 2nd Ezra 16 and 21. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they, alright, those that live in Babylon the Great, which is America, that they shall think themselves to be in a good case. And that's pretty much where your average American stands at right now, man. Since they're still able to go to Little Caesars and get that $6 pizza, go get some bottled water at the grocery store and pretty much just live off of that. They think that they're good, they're living the dream, so to speak. But we're living in a time right now, man, where the U.S. economy is going to be affected significantly based upon how this all plays out in terms of how Iran responds within having any kind of wiggle room towards America, man. All right, but according to prophecy, the Heavenly Father is putting the spirit upon these Iranians, which are the ancient Persians, all right, to be put back within that ancient mindset of being a wild boar, all right, showing no mercy, recollecting the thoughts of what Esau has done to them as a nation, and ultimately destroying this great whore, which is America, that has done nothing more but raped, robbed, and murdered everybody, all right, and through that action, America has been able to capitalize upon everybody's lives and live in this lavish lifestyle. Alright, but that's when the Heavenly Fathers, as we're looking at right now, is going to raise up the heathen to form an alliance against America. Alright, and this is all nothing more but the proof in the pudding in terms of what we see happening as we measure the time diligently in itself. Iran being one of the first ones to kickstart this whole event based upon this whole back and forth with the U.S. bombing the Iranians through the, aid of helping out the little hats. Alright, it says, and even then shall evils grow upon earth. Sword. Alright, you got a lot of Edomites out here in America that are so divided within the way of how the U.S. is moving in terms of this whole war conflict. Alright, a lot of them want peace, others want the cost of living to go down, but America's doing none of those things, man. Okay, all those promises that this dude Trump gave you when he was first elected, oh yeah, all of that was thrown away in the trash. Alright, and now, and now they're moving upon better things in terms of helping Esau's NWO to escalate. Alright, so civil war is going to be rampant out here in America, man. It says sword, famine, and great confusion. Alright, and within the set media that Esau pushes out in terms of giving you headlines of what's happening in this war, it's nothing but a bunch of propaganda that sedates people from the reality of what's really happening behind closed doors. A lot of people really don't know the significance of what this Strait of Hormuz being closed means, but the Wada Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, for not only the spirit of prophecy, but for putting that spirit within the elect to blow the horn of these events, man. Alright? And ultimately linking it to the prophecies, because I know the Dallas camp, they always make jokes about that one Moabite Ling something, all right, that's pretty much blowing the horn in terms of giving you out a lot of good information about what this whole war in the Middle East is going to escalate to. But when it comes down to linking it and marrying it to the will of the Heavenly Father, this is where all these other economists and historians that, study these things lack at. It's the spirit of prophecy, and that's where us, all right, Lord willing, we're a part of the elect. This is where we shine, man, all right? We're not in confusion, we're not in worry about a famine coming. We're not worried about anything, all we're worried about is making it through the finish line, which is the straight gate, and waiting patiently until Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai rises up to the prey and fights our fights for us, man. Alright? Because we're going to need divine intervention in these times to come. You can bet your bottom dollar on that, because shit is getting real. So, yeah, because I have a couple other precepts, and I also want to get some information off of this little dialogue that I started off with chat. But before I do so, I want to play some of these videos that I got pulled up in terms of how you have a lot of people warning about, inflation coming. There's going to be a supposed energy lockdown crisis. And, all this information is just doing nothing more but giving us the vibration that something big is about to go down in the world, predominantly in the world of you Americans, all right? So without further ado, we're going to play this this first video. It's kind of lengthy, but it says a lot, all right? Every now and then I'll jump in and give my little 2 cents, but for the length of this video, I'm just going to let it play out and let you brothers hear it.
15 days, not a metaphor, not a dramatic opener to grab your attention. A literal, mathematical, unavoidable 14-day countdown. And when that clock hits 0, the price of everything you buy, everything you eat, and everything that runs on energy is going to explode in a way that will make the last 3 years of inflation feel like a minor inconvenience. Here's what just happened, and why those 14 days matter more than anything else happening on the planet right now. Iran just destroyed the American command center in Bahrain. Not damaged, not disrupted, destroyed. The nerve center coordinating U.S. military operations across the entire Gulf region, gone. And in the same strike package, Iran hit Bahrain's oil facilities, fuel storage, processing infrastructure, the physical machinery that moves Gulf oil from the ground to the tankers to the global market. But that's just the opening act. In the last 48 hours, Iran has also struck Abu Dhabi's airport, hit the Fujairah oil depot, one of the most strategically critical fuel storage facilities in the world, attacked Qatar's LNG infrastructure, hit Kuwait, struck UAE positions, and continued pounding every American military installation it can reach across the Gulf.
So you can see how these Persians are moving, man. They're moving like a wild man, and they're ultimately doing everything in their ability to cut off any kind of supply line that can lead to America getting involved. All right.
The Gulf.
And this is going to do nothing more but further the set brewing method, for the lack of a better term, of creating nothing but pure hell out here in America in the form of inflation. Okay? Again, right now you Americans don't really feel it. The only price that's hitting your pockets right now is just gas. All right? But again, this has been in the span of just less than a month. All right? There's been information that this war is going to lead all the way into September. All right? But again, when it comes down to how the economy works, if there's nothing that's been done in terms of having some kind of agreement where these heathen meet in the middle, which chances are they won't. All right? There's been talks that, Trump's been talking to the Ayatollah, which is nothing but bullshit. More propaganda to think and feed you people with an assurance of peace, but in reality there is no peace. All right? But this is going to do nothing more but further the process of the economy in America being completely effed up, man. All right? So let's keep listening.
This isn't a military campaign anymore. This is a surgical economic demolition. Iran isn't trying to win a battle. Iran is trying to strangle the global economy until the world forces America to leave. And they have found the exact pressure point that makes every country on Earth, not just the ones being bombed, feel the pain within weeks. Here's the mechanism, and pay close attention because this is the most important thing you'll hear today. Right now, the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed to oil traffic. Ships aren't moving. Tankers are anchored. The oil that Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE pump out of the ground every single day has no...
And just to add to that point, there are ships that are moving through the strait, all right? The only difference is that those ships that are going through the Strait of Hormuz are verified by Iran that they have right to passage, all right? And all those ships that are going through the strait are Iranian allies, man. If there's a ship that's, a part of the U.S. or it has any kind of relation of benefiting the U.S., the Iranians cut that cord like that. Send the boat back and, let them know that we're not fucking with y'all. All right? So this shows you the spirit of these Persians, man. As he said, they're forming an economic demolition to ditch this horror and create a new foundation, which is ultimately going to be a technocracy. All right? And this is what, through the spirit, beginning with the Apostles of Great Millstone, is going to come. All right? The American economy is going to get so effed up to the point to where Esau is going to perform what he's been in the works of planning out, which is a technocracy. All right? A new way of buying and selling, which is going to be done via biometrics. Okay? So you could see the prophecies really speaking for themselves right now, man. There's really not much to talk about at this point. Call Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, man. All right?
Has nowhere to go, so it gets stored, pumped into massive holding tanks on land while the world waits for the strait to reopen. Those storage tanks are almost full. Maximum capacity, 10 to 14 days away. The moment those tanks hit capacity, the Gulf states have only one option: stop pumping. You cannot produce oil you have nowhere to put. Production shuts down, and the second Gulf production shuts down, the global oil supply doesn't tighten. It collapses. Demand stays exactly where it is. 7 billion people still need fuel, heat, food transportation, manufacturing, but the supply side just fell off a cliff. Oil analysts are currently modeling price scenarios of $50 to $80 per barrel above current levels in a matter of days after production stops. Not weeks, days. Because markets don't wait for the physical shortage to arrive. They price it in the moment the shutdown becomes inevitable. And here's how that hits you personally right now, wherever you are in the world. Every $10 increase in oil prices adds roughly $400 to $500 per year to the average household's cost of living. Not just at the pump, that's the visible part. The invisible part is that oil is embedded in literally everything. The plastic in your phone, the fertilizer that grew your food, the truck that delivered it, the electricity that...
Right, and where does that plastic come from? It comes from China, all right? And again, China is a country that, if I'm not mistaken, they get a lot of their oil from the Strait of Hormuz, all right? So if they're not getting that import in of oil, that means that their plastic production is going to be at a halt, all right? They're not going to input or have much of an output, and that's going to lead to the U.S. economy to be damaged. The cost of plastic, almost everything in this country is made of plastic, all right? So much so that you have a credit card worth of plastic in your bloodstream. But that's just one of the many things that are going to take a toll in the U.S. economy, man. All right, he mentioned electricity.
That powered the store, the packaging it came in. You have 14 days.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the gist of this video. I forget, he has a YouTube channel, you can look it up, all right? But this just shows you the reality of what's coming into America very, very soon, man. All right? Again, inflation is something that happens with time, and once that time is set, the dollar can pretty much just hit, 0 to 100 real quick, man. The price of toilet paper can go from $4 to $10. All right. So we'll see what happens, but best believe that this is a reality that's going to happen very soon. All right. He gave a 14-day count. I believe it's not going to happen, because that's pretty unrealistic. But with time, all right, without a doubt, this will be something that affects all of us. All right. So real quick, this is Ezekiel chapter 4. I got another video that I want to play before we get that. Let's hit this precept. And 15. I'm sorry, shit. Yeah, 16. Going straight to the point. It says, I'm also going to get it in the NLT. Then he told me, Son of man, I will make food very scarce in Jerusalem. It will be weighed out with great care and eaten fearfully. Alright? And Jerusalem is the people before it's a place. Where do you find the people of Jerusalem? Which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans predominantly in here in America, man. Alright? The water will be rationed out drop by drop, and the people will drink it with dismay. Lacking food and water, people will look at one another in terror, and they will waste away under their punishment. Alright? And this is what's coming to America, man. Alright? People are going to be rationing their food, their water, when all hell breaks loose. And people are already doing it right now, man. You know? Throughout social media, you have a constant outcry of Edomites, Jakes as well, that are pretty much just, giving their little testimony about how hard it is to live in the United States, man. You got people living in cars, once they're done paying their bills and all that, they got $50 to their name, and that's not including food expenses. Alright, so on top of this inflation that's going to come via the Strait of Hormuz, alright, that little money cinch that they got is going to get tighter and tighter, alright? So, matter of fact, before we get that in the next video that I have in my little list, I want to get this where I asked chat, as the oil that is exported from the Strait of Hormuz is being bottlenecked, how will this affect European and Asian economies, and how will this trickle to a domino effect of causing inflation in America, as America relies on other countries like China, Europe for consumer goods? Alright? And going to the first point, matter of fact, Salakia. We'll go to the fifth point just for the sake of time. The domino effect. Inflation hits the US. Even though the US produces a lot of its own oil, the US still gets hit because it imports goods, not just oil. It depends on China for manufacturing, like we made the point, plastic. Alright, America gets a lot of their cars, a lot of their Apple products, and things of that nature from China, man. So that's going to go up. Alright? Germany/EU for machinery, autos, and etc. Alright? And one of the main countries that are, or one of the main regions that are facing a lot of hell right now because of this Strait of Hormuz being closed to them are the European countries, man, like the ones in EU, in particular Germany. Okay? I've been making this point quite often, and I'm going to keep making it. Germany right now is in the middle of a recession, alright? And by you adding this thing of the Strait of Hormuz being closed to them, it's going to do nothing more but add salt to their wounds, man. Alright? So reading on, it says, so what happens? Imported goods cost more. Electronics, cars, appliances, and clothing. Domestic transportation costs rise. Gas prices go up. Trucking, airlines, logistics all increase prices. Alright? And again, if the cost of gas and all that goes up, alright, everything's gonna go up. Because what are trucks? The ones that deliver their little cargo trailers, what are they running on? They're running on gas. Okay? Number 3, businesses pass costs to consumers. This is how inflation spreads. Alright? Secondary effects in America. Gas prices rise at the pump, airline tickets become more expensive, and food prices increase. Transport plus fertilizer costs tied to oil. Stock market volatility, especially in tech and retail. This creates cost-push inflation. Prices rise not because demand is high, but because costs are higher everywhere. Worst case scenario, global economic slowdown. If prolonged, Asia slows, less production. Europe slows, less demand. US gets inflation plus slower growth. That combination equals global stagflation risk. But again, we're talking to ChatGPT. And when it comes to things like this, it always gives you a biased / peaceful answer. Alright? But as we just heard from that Moabite, this is going to get a lot worse than what people realize. Alright? And the only thing that really matters is just seeing how time plays seeing how time plays out, man. Alright? It says simple chain reaction, which is the domino view. Hormuz bottleneck equals oil prices spike. Asia production costs rise. Europe industry slows. Global shipping costs rises. US import prices increase. Inflation spreads. The key insight: even though the US is more energy independent than before, it cannot escape global pricing systems. Oil is a globally priced commodity, and supply shocks anywhere rise prices everywhere. Alright? So that's the proof in the pudding of what's going to happen, man, and the expectancy of what we have coming of 2026. Alright? So call Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, man. So let's go to the next video where you have this one dude, Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair, warn of inflation coming very soon. Alright?
But the
It says, Powell just sounded the alarm. Are you listening? Prices are about to surge and there's
implications of events in the Middle East for the U.S. economy are uncertain. In the near term, higher energy prices will push up overall inflation, but it is too soon to know the scope and duration of the potential effects on the economy. But the implications of events in the Middle East for the U.S. economy are uncertain. In the near term, higher energy prices will push up.
Yeah, and that's the point. Alright, quick little video, but again, this should be at the forefront of what the media pushes to people, man. Alright? But why isn't it? Because we live in America, man. Alright? The city of unwalled villages where the people are at rest. Okay? Yeah, Salakia. I deleted the tab on accident that I was on. So let's go to this next one, where this dude talks about an energy lockdown crisis, which could really be something that happens. Alright? It isn't so far-fetched in terms of how things are moving.
Energy lockdowns are coming. It's going to be COVID 2.0, but they don't have to force you to do it because no one's going to have any money to go anywhere. You are already seeing signs like United Airlines just cut 5% of their flights. They're already rationing oil in some Southeast Asian countries where, hey, come every other day to get oil. Wait another 4 to 6 weeks from now. If this war continues, it's going to be work from home again. The price of flights is going to double in 2 months. No one's going to be flying anywhere. Hotels are going to crash. All this Airbnb crap. It's all going to crash just like COVID did. And what is the government going to do? They only got one solution. They're going to send out stimmy checks for everyone so they can compensate for the doubling of their grocery prices and oil prices. Now, another thing to put in perspective, in the 1970s oil embargo, the price of oil quadrupled from where it was at, and right now we are destroying each other's energy infrastructure. This isn't an oil embargo they can just lift and then we can increase the capacity. This energy infrastructure, like the LNG in Qatar, they're saying it's going to take 5 years to rebuild that. So it's just not going to be something we can turn on in the middle of the night.
Right, in Texas, they just stated that they were going to make a new oil refinery, and when that headline came out, the cost of oil within the barrels, of course, went down to like 60. All right, but the funny thing about that is, an oil refinery takes years for it to be built. All right. So it makes no sense, the fact of how Esau is playing with those. Well, it shows his deception, alright? And how he's just playing with those numbers damn near right now, man. Alright? And another thing that's funny, that should really make you wonder, is Venezuela. Here it is, Venezuela has more oil than the Middle East, man. Alright? And what did the US just do? They took it. All right. So shouldn't the U.S. have more oil than any of these other countries? All right. Think about it. But then again, the nations within that region of the Middle East, all right, along with the other ones that are suffering based upon the Strait of Hormuz now being dictated by the Iranians, they're going to be affected by it, all right, which would also put the U.S. in the power seat of going to America for that oil, all right. But again, this just goes to show this is nothing more but a big charade, man, all right. There is oil, all right, but we're dealing with the goddamn devil that has a bunch of devices out here for the people to fall into, but through the Spirit, all right, that the Most High has given us, we're not ignorant of His devices anymore, man. We see through the deception, and we understand what's about to come down the pipeline, all right?
So this is going to be the death knell for the middle class. Whoever's left of the middle class is going to be forced out with just insane inflation on food, costs, insurance, everything going up. And the United States is going to look a lot like Mexico. You're just going to be either really rich or really poor. And the whole era of the strong, vibrant middle class is going to go bye-bye. So make your moves so you get out.
And this is what Esau wants, man. To destroy that middle class and to have everybody to be broke pretty much. For the purpose of them going to Esau for the want of all things and to ultimately take the mark of the beast written in Revelation 13 and 16, man. Alright. So we'll end off with this in Revelation 6 and I'll start at 5. It says, the third seal, which is famine. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. Alright. Now when people are famished, alright, one of the things that they suffer is, of course, their body eating itself, but they start getting black in the face, man. Alright? So you can see the symbolic figure of why, the Lord had it to where this horse was black. It says, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, which refers to slavery. Alright? When you get that word for a pair of balances, it goes back to Zygos. Alright? The Strong's G Concordance 2218. Yoke, alright? Joined by a yoke. Metaphorically used of any burden or bondage as that of slavery. Alright? And this is what Esau wants to put everybody under, man. Alright? Hell, you already are a slave if you have a social security number and a birth certificate. But what's going to be the last the last nail in that coffin is going to be the MOT to the B, man. Alright? So reading on. It says, verse 6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And a penny, back in the day, was a day's pay. Alright? So the simple fact of one... Matter of fact, let me read this part in the NLT. Alright? It says, and I heard a voice from among the 4 living beings say, a loaf of wheat bread or 3 loaves of barley will cost a day's pay. Alright? So your blood, sweat, and tear of working hard wherever you work is only going to get you so much as far as just getting 1 loaf of bread. Okay? This is where society is moving towards, man. Alright? But this is where this truth excels above everything else, man. Because wisdom doesn't have a price that Esau can play with. Alright? As the scriptures tell us, wisdom is above riches. Pursuing Ecclesiastes 7 and 12. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and 12 in... I'll get it in both versions, KJV and then the NLT. It says, wisdom is a defense and money is a defense, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom gives life to them that have it. Wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. Alright? What did Yahushua tell the disciples? that if you eat of his bread, you'll have. Matter of fact, let's get that next, man. Shit. But this is where us, true believers of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai excel, man. All right. Because we have something that is far greater than anything that this world can offer you, man, and that is Yahweh Shai. All right. So this is John chapter 6 and 33. It says, matter of fact, I'll start at 32. Then Yahweh Shai said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. Alright? For the bread of the Most High is he which cometh down from heaven, and giveth life unto the world. So that's what we've received, man. Life. Alright? Matter of fact, let's get this one as well. Verse 40. Alright? This whole chapter is beauty. Beautiful verse. Beautiful chapter. But for the sake of time and just hitting the couple points in this chapter, we'll kind of hop here and there. Verse 40, it says, And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son, and believeth on him, may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. Alright? And this is what the Lord's doing with us, man. By the mere preaching of the word, and us, hearing it, we're now being put within the category of the Heavenly Father giving us the blessing of rising back to that first estate of conquering death, of conquering anything. Alright? Now real quick, just for the sake of edification, I want to get this word for raise and see if we could get a little more meat off that bone. That word raise goes back to the Strong's G450. The word there is anistemi. And it says to cause, to rise up from laying down, to raise up from the dead. Alright, so while these people are in this dead estate where they're fighting for food, they're, fighting over water, the Lord's going to raise us from that dead estate and give us everything that we need, man. Alright, Isaiah 65 and 13. My servant shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. Alright. That's pretty much the point. Alright. So let's go back here in Revelation 6 and 6. It says, And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Alright, which is talking about this truth, man. Alright. This word, again, has no correlation to where Esau can tamper with it. Alright. The only way that he's able to do that is to those that are unstable in their mind and that aren't really about serving the Most High, man. Alright? You're going to be like Cypress in the Matrix. Alright? You may play the part of being in the Nebuchadnezzar, you're doing the work, you're around the brothers, but when you're faced with that hour of temptation, alright, and you start giving into the flesh, you're going to do what the flesh does, and that's to get instant gratification. Alright? Through prophecy, we understand that we have something far greater that this world can offer us, man. And that's everlasting life. That's a kingdom that has nothing but righteousness flourishing in it. And finally being at the top of the food chain in terms of how this world works, man. Alright? So with that, Lord willing, this was an edifying lesson. I don't want to make it too long. Lord willing, it was edifying. Just hitting upon those points about how this whole shit of Hormuz is escalating into. I'll probably make another video later this week because there's a couple more points that I want to make in terms of how EU is responding to this whole process. But with that, as always, giving all praise into our power, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings unto the elect. Shalom.